I'd like to show you how I teach rhythm reading through this book. The very first steps to explaining this to students is to break it down into three parts. There is pulse, and that's going to be represented by your toe tapping on the ground. There is meter, and that's going to be represented by your mouth saying something like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then there's the rhythm, and that's represented by what your hands do. And students always kind of get these out of the wrong priority. They think priority number one is the hands, getting the right rhythms. But if you really think about it, pulse is way more important than rhythm, and meter is more important than rhythm as well, because you're going to see that particular pulse and those particular meters over and over again, and you may see the rhythm not quite as many times. So almost everyone that I've shown this particular method has some variation of, oh yeah, I already do that. I just implore that you'll watch these videos and the large number of clapping videos on the YouTube channel just to see how this is different, because the system gets great results if you follow it all the way. So it is, everybody that I've talked to after a longer conversation, oh, I already do that, then we start to find, oh, well, there's this that I do different and that I do different. It might look like what you do, but it probably has a few idiosyncrasies to it that are very important that really help to develop some things. So check it out and see thoroughly if it's exactly what you do. So when you teach 4/4, that's usually the first time signature I teach. I start on number 1 in the book. 4/4 number 1, you want to talk to them about what the top number of that time signature means. There's 2 numbers. The top number is going to tell you how many beats per measure, and then the bottom number is going to tell you what kind of note gets the beat. And they get this pretty well, but this is always a little bit confusing for them. Honestly, I just glaze over it a little bit when I do 4/4. When they start to get more time signatures on their belt, 2, 4, 3, 4, 6, 8, all that stuff, then the bottom number starts to make a little bit more sense for them. So when I first teach number 1, I say down, up, while we're clapping it. If you watch the video for number 1 on the YouTube channel, I say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but I usually, for probably the first 2 or 3 days, especially with my beginners, I'm going to establish firmly that their toe is tapping correctly with the metronome and going down, up, down, up. And then the second thing that I do with the kids, besides the toe tapping, establishing that, then I'm going to have them sit correctly. So I tell them to sit correctly before every single clapping exercise that we do together. And this is what I say. I say, put your feet flat on the floor, scoot forward in your chair, because most of them sit kind of like this. So scoot forward in your chair so that your backside does not touch the back of the chair. Curve your spine forward, and you can put your fist in your spine to show them how to make this curve happen. And then shoulders up, back, down. And some of them will kind of do that, but just let them do it for a little while, and then they'll get it into a more relaxed position. You don't want, most people sit like this with their spine curved the wrong way and their shoulders hunched forward, so you want to make sure that their spine is curved the correct way and their shoulders are slightly back and down from where they normally would be. Most people don't sit correctly. So if you don't sit correctly, you don't breathe correctly, and if you don't breathe correctly, you're going to play with poor tone quality. So posture every time that you do a clapping exercise. This will help to establish it so that you don't have to teach it as often in other areas. So the first time that my students do a clapping exercise, I have them get out their gun and shoot each note or rest as I clap it. Now when I taught high school, I just said to touch each note or rest as I clap it. That they do need to be doing something physical though while you're modeling, anywhere from that 18-year-old girl in high school all the way down to the 11-year-old boy in middle school. They can still zone out on this stuff, so make them do something. And my middle school kids like doing the gun, some of them use their bazooka or whatever, but it's just something fun for them to do, but it keeps them on task so that they don't zone out. Then I clap the whole exercise for them while they're pointing to each note. After that, I have them clap the exercise, and I have, like on the projector in the front of the room, I have this whiteboard where I can project stuff. So I put it up on my computer, get the PDF of the clapping up, shine number 1 up there, and then I turn that metronome on, and then I point to each note, as they clap it, kind of, like a la the bouncing ball in karaoke, because so often kids don't know which symbol means what, especially when they're first beginning. So that touching the board and them touching their music really helps to connect some things for them. So both the modeling and the pointing on the board are huge helps in the beginning. After they get through the first 10 or so exercises, I kind of stop projecting on the board, and unless I'm doing something new like eighth notes or 16th notes or 6/8 or something like that. So after I model, then I point while they clap, and I let them, after I've done both of those steps, then I'm going to just let them do it just without any intervention from me. Just turn the metronome on, get them started, and let them see if they can do it. And we only try each exercise twice, and we clap 2 exercises each day. And this keeps clapping time under 5 minutes, and some days as short as 2 minutes. Each time the students finish a clapping exercise, I go up on my whiteboard and I will draw a line like this. And I tell them that this line represents my standard of how well a student their age should perform that particular exercise. So I try to do this so they can see it all the way in the back. Might have to make it, double or triple thickness. And then this line does not represent perfection, just a good rep for kids this age. So usually the first time they do something, it's not very good, put it down there. Maybe the second time it might get a little bit better. Or imagine, they're moving on to another exercise and they get it right the first time, then I will put a dot right there. Or they may even do better than what I would expect them to do. So they love, like, if either this or this happens, then a lot of times they'll cheer and be like, yeah! So if they hit the standard the first time, like, so let's say they're doing 4/4 number 1, and the first time they do it, maybe third or fourth day they're doing it, the first time they do it, they just absolutely nail it. Then I put a line on or above, a dot on or above the line, and they're not going to have to do that exercise again that day. And also, they're not going to have to start on 4/4 number 1 tomorrow. Then they get to start on 4/4 number 2, and this is very motivating for them. This makes them try hard every time. And if you keep it to a low number, like we only do 2 clapping exercises, 2 times each, and you do this, they're going to be very motivated to do it well, and it'll be a real intense, short period of study, which I really believe in. So some of the advanced groups will, the first time they do something will be, like in my 7th grade, we were reviewing cut time the other day, and they just nailed the first one the first time. We'd already taught cut time, we were just going back to review. They hit it the first time, and then they nailed the second one. And then they nailed the third one. They wanted to keep going, so I'll let, sometimes if they're real pumped about it, I'll let them just keep going so that they maybe can get up to number 10 instead of having to start on number 1. And I'll let this go as long as the energy level stays high, because if they're excited about clapping and counting rhythms, that's a great thing. So to review, when you start, you want to make sure you have the metronome on. You want to get their posture going, have them tap their toe, count out loud, clap the rhythms, 2 exercises twice each, model new exercises, use the lines and dots, and keep the energy level high, and keep the clapping periods short.